Alright, so I'm sure there's only a handful of you that aren't confused by the title. Unless you watch my stream in the past few months, you won't actually know that I stopped maining Medic, since I still use him as my, I guess you could say, image. So this video is just going to be a bit of a discussion on why I stopped maining Medic, and my whole thoughts on the term of maining. So every time I use the word, just imagine there are invisible quotation marks that are important to the connotation. First and foremost, why am I making this video? Well, I constantly get the question of who do you main, both on videos and streams. I've gotten this question so frequently on streams that I've just had to chuck the answer and explanation into an FAQ document. So while there is a document that explains this, I would like to make a more permanent and detailed version to this, so I don't have to go into extreme detail every time I get the question. Let's start at the beginning. For those who don't know, Meet the Medic was actually my formal introduction to TF2 and was what convinced me to download it. Being a 15-year-old who had absolutely no experience in first-person shooters on a computer, I was naturally drawn to not only the character that had convinced me to try the game out, but the one that I saw as being the easiest because all he had to do was click in the general vicinity of his teammate and he'd be helping and doing his job. So, being the noob that I was, I decided to main Medic. In my early days of TF2, I did mostly play Medic, but that was because I kinda didn't know how to handle the other classes. My aim was even worse than it was now, my positioning was god-awful, and I couldn't get anything done as any other class, but when I was playing Medic, I felt like I was actually contributing to the team. To add on to that, this was also the time in which I didn't have a computer of my own and was forced to play on a Mac. Now, here's the thing about playing on a Mac. Aside from the god-awful mouse I had to use that essentially had one button, Mac mouses have permanent mouse acceleration on, and while kiddo me didn't know how much that impacted the game, I now know how much it did, and I can't believe I dealt with that for like 2 years. So, due to the handicaps of my setup, Medic was by far the easiest to play, so I essentially mained him because of how much I did play him. However, as time has gone on, I've gotten a better grasp on the control scheme, and upgraded hardware, and more experience with FPS games on the PC. I've been actually able to comfortably play the other classes, and in the last few years, I really haven't played Medic all that much. If you actually look at a lot of my background footage or watch my streams, you can actually notice that I don't often play Medic. Background footage wise, it's usually Scout, Pyro, or Soldier, which is akin to the three I actually play the most often. So the question here is, why don't I play Medic all too much anymore, and why did I stop maining him? Well, let me take you back to what was labeled the Blue Moon update. Competitive had gotten a well-needed update and people were clamoring to try out the newly revamped mode. Aside from it being broken for around 2 weeks, some people actually managed to get matches, and eventually a rank, including myself. During the placement matches, I was generally sticking to Medic since I considered him my best class, and since it was competitive, I wanted to bring my best to my random assortment of teammates. Long story short, my matches as Medic went absolutely horrendous. Whether that be my own personal experience or the game's just being horribly unbalanced, I experienced it all, and to top off my abysmal placements, I received the amazing rank of Mercenary 2. Like, I know I'm not that fantastic at the game. It took me 6 years to get where I am with my FPS skill, but I am not the second lowest rank in the game. Receiving that pitiful rank was basically what made me finally snap. I gave up. I didn't want to play Medic anymore. I didn't want to deal with being bombed, not being protected, having my entire team go in without me, only to finally catch up to their fresh corpses. I wanted to be able to shoot some things down, do something for whatever team was unfortunate enough to get me. So I finally hung up my medigun and picked up my scattergun. And this was what happened after I did so. Unfortunately, I no longer have the stats for my comp games when I was attempting to play Medic, so you have to just take my word for it that once I switched to Scout, not only were my stats better, but my games were going much better. To add to it, not too long after switching to Scout, the game decided to just completely skip a rank and put me at Contract Killer 1, which, while still low, is a much more accurate rank than Merc 2, so it convinced me to finally stop saying I main Medic. However, anyone that's asked me this for probably up to 2 years at this point has gotten the answer from me that was somewhere along the lines of, I technically main Medic, but I play more Pyro, Scout, and Soldier. Basically, for the longest time, I've been on the cusp of officially switching mains, because I just wasn't enjoying Medic all that much anymore, and a lot of that is in fact due to pubs. Anyone that's played Medic can tell you that pub medicing can be one of the worst experiences, and around the 4-year mark of me playing this game, I started to get sick of it. The competitive experience was just the tipping point for me to finally say, alright, I'm done with this, I'm switching to somebody else, and I did. There were 3 contenders for my technical main: Scout, Soldier, and Pyro. Soldier I threw out the window pretty quickly because I just don't have the time and skill to properly learn the rocket jumping like the pros. Pyro was the next consideration because he was my second most consistent class and in turn my second best. But there are 2 reasons I chose not to choose Pyro. I had already been living in the girl gamer stereotype. I mained Medic. Support roles are typically what females play. For TF2, people usually say, girls only play Pyro and Medic, so it's not hard to see why I axed Pyro. That left me with Scout, which was the class that I most enjoyed playing, but for point number 2, by choosing Scout, I was forcing myself to get better. My aim has always been my weakest skill in FPS games, and aim is an incredibly important thing to have. By choosing to main Scout, I was forcing myself to practice my aim more and more, and to be more aggressive and engaging in fights, which was also another weakness of mine. Now, if you couldn't already tell by the way I've been talking in this video, I really don't like the term maining, due to how many different ways it can be taken and how people tend to take it in terms of TF2. People often consider someone's main to be their only class they play. If the person isn't playing what they or other people consider their main, it often ends with the question of, why aren't you playing X character? Or with them straight up expecting you to play the class and only that class. This is why I absolutely despise this term and add the word technically when telling people of my main. People often get the mindset that maining a character or class or hero means you only play that single character. No, it doesn't. There's a reason the term one trick exists. The way I see it, maining can be taken 2 different ways. Either it means the character the person plays the most, or it's the character the person is best with. So let me use myself as an example. When I say now that I main Scout, I mean that he's the mercenary I play the most, but he's not the only one I frequently play. I often play other mercenaries. And now for me, Scout doesn't mean that he's my best. He's just the one that I play the most, and I'm decently good at. Or I can be decently good at when my aim isn't gone down the crapper for the day. If I could get rid of using the term maining, I would, but people generally expect everyone to main something, so for simplicity's sake, I'm now a Scout main. But for those of you that want a real answer, I don't really main a single class. I play whatever class I feel like playing. TF2 drew me in because of its cast of diverse classes with wildly different playstyles. I don't stick around just to play 1,000 hours of the same playstyle and role. I stick around because of the ease of switching roles and the way you can play. I'm not saying maining is bad, it's good to practice a specific character, but to me, it's not fun to play only one character. So, does this mean I'll be switching my channel image to that of Scout related stuff? No, absolutely not. Not only because I would look terrible in my Scout cosmetics, but because it doesn't mean I've abandoned playing Medic. It just means I'm not technically maining him anymore. As a character, I still absolutely love Medic, and every now and then I do fully enjoy playing him. I mainly just wanted to clearly state that I don't consider myself a Medic main anymore.